maybe considering the theme of today, possibly I should say ni hao, which is Mandarin for hello. Now, why did I say that? Because I have not one new toy, but two new toys. I have a Pharmatech G660 and a Pharmatech 372 XP. Now, to celebrate my new toys, I'm going to have a Höfler Rheinlager, and these guys do actually put on their bottle, brewed under the German purity law of 1516, the Reinheitsgebot. Anyway, if you're German, you know exactly what's going on, or probably even European. So I'm going to have a celebratory drink. Cheers, or Prost, or I don't know what cheers is in Chinese. Anyway. Oh yeah, first beer of the day. Oh, there's nothing like the first taste of beer. So, pardon me, what do we have here? What we have is, some people call these saws clones. So this is, they would say this is a clone of a Stihl MS660, and that this is a clone of a Husqvarna 372 XP. Now, they're not really clones, because a clone is something that has exactly the same components, or, well, really it's a biological term. So a clone is a creature or a plant or whatever that has exactly the same DNA and makeup, physical makeup of the original. These don't. So they're really copies, all right? They're cheap copies. They're not clones because a lot of the components are not the same, as in quality, like thickness of the plastic, the fit and the finish won't be the same as an OEM saw, a Stihl or a Husqvarna. They are a little bit, well, you know, considering that they're a quarter to a fifth of the price of a brand new OEM saw, you're definitely not going to get the same quality. It's just that simple. But I will qualify that. First of all, I'll just point out how much I'm sweating. It's probably only about, I would say it's like 26 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, maybe 27 maximum. But you know what? The humidity is just unbelievable. Now, I just had a shower, and so this is a fresh shirt, and I reckon in like 10 minutes it's just going to be, I'm just going to be drenched. It is so humid, man, because the monsoon is well and truly, I live in the tropics. The monsoon is, yeah, Australia does have tropics. The monsoon is well and truly here, and right now it's in this sort of, it doesn't want to, you know, it rains a little bit and then sort of that burns off and the sun comes out, and then it rains a little bit, sun comes out, rains a little. So it's just constantly, you've got evaporation, and it's just so steamy, it's unbelievable. Stop bitching. Yeah, no, sorry. My apologies. Just explaining to you why I sweat so much. It's not because of some bizarre physiological complaint. Cheers. It's because I live in the tropics and it is super, super humid. And I do sweat more than, I'm one of those people who sweats more than most, or higher up the sweating scale, but it is really humid. So anyway, let's talk chainsaws, because I love chainsaws. They are so much fun. And with the advent of the Chinese copies, not clones, you can afford like seriously strong and capable chainsaws for a fraction of the price. Now, some people would say, look, if you want to be serious, why don't you just buy a Stihl, that's the proper pronunciation, Stihl, or a Husqvarna. Why don't you buy the real thing? Well, because if I just swore. I'll edit that out. They're really expensive. Not ridiculously expensive, but they are expensive. All right. And unless you're a professional, unless you're using that thing every day, like 8 hours a day, then there's really no point in buying the OEM product. You don't need it. If you don't need a professional saw, a professional OEM saw, then don't buy a professional OEM saw. And I don't. I may in the future, because I'd like to get into doing arborist work. I have done, so I can honestly say that I have been a professional chainsaw operator. Yeah. It was for like 2 weeks, and that was after a cyclone, and I was actually in between jobs, and the local council or the local government was looking for people to help out in cleaning up after. It was the biggest cyclone that's ever been, I think, in Australia, which was Cyclone Yasi, and there was a lot of big trees that were knocked over. For some bizarre reason, people thought that planting African mahogany trees, I think that's what they're called, was a good idea in an area where you get seriously big storms. Now the problem with those trees is when they get to a certain size, they are seriously top heavy, and their roots are not able to hold them up in a big storm. So man, there was just heaps and heaps of these trees knocked over. So we were employed, we were trained up, we were given a course, and it's the basic chainsaw operation course. It's called operating and maintaining a chainsaw, I think, is the course. So it's very basic. All you're doing essentially is being taught how to maintain. So just clean it, replace chain. We weren't even taught how to sharpen the chain, actually, strangely enough. We were only taught really the basics, and the basics of bucking. So cutting down timber that's already been fallen. It's the basics, but I was still a professional chainsaw operator. Don't forget that. So anyway, but I really, it got me going, because I really learned a lot in that course. I thought I knew a little bit about chainsawing, even though I'd never really did any study on anything. But subsequently, I've been just, pardon me, with how useful YouTube is, I have watched the whole, I don't know how old that course is. It's the Canadian British Columbia WorkSafe, BC WorkSafe, or WorkSafe BC. I don't know what it's called, tree falling or logging course or whatever, but it's about 13 episodes, and some of them are like 3 hours long. So, and this was during COVID, I think, that I watched it. I just pigged out on that, and learnt a lot from that. Also, there's a few YouTube channels that I watch, and one of the best ones is, one is Buck and Billy Ray Smith. He's just fun to watch. Another one is A Fleet Command, or A Fleet Command. He's really good. He doesn't really teach you how to use a chainsaw, but he's really knowledgeable, especially about Pharmatech saws. Another really, probably the most informative as far as learning how to use a chainsaw, that isn't a government, that's a private individual, is Jacob Rogers, and his channel is Guilty of Treason, TREESON. If you want to learn how to maintain a saw, how to sharpen a chain, if you want to learn. Buck and Billy Ray is also good for that, but if you want to learn how to cut down trees, Guilty of Treason is really, really, really good. And I would just like to pay my condolences and respects to one of the guys that was filmed a lot on that YouTube channel, and that was a guy called Jed Walters, and he died recently in an accident at work. He had a log, a free really long piece of log that was hung up that he didn't see and no one else saw, and he was actually under it, and he was chainsawing, and apparently the vibration of the saw loosened that log, and it came down and struck him in the head, apparently full in the face, and killed him instantly, so I'm told, which is really, really tragic because he's got a wife and 2 kids. Now there is a GoFundMe to help his wife and kids out, and I'll tell you what that is. I'll put it in the description. And apparently everybody who knew him loved him. Like, they didn't like him, they loved him. He was just that sort of individual. So it is a really, really dangerous profession. Like, he was a professional arborist, and he worked in the same crew as Jacob Rogers in Guilty of Treason. That's the YouTube channel. Yeah, it is, and I've been whacked, you know, and I was actually on a ladder, yeah, cutting a piece of one of my trees, and one branch, and it didn't go where I wanted it to go, and it whacked me, yeah, pretty good too. Luckily I didn't, so I had a running chainsaw. I didn't fall off, and it didn't hurt me, but it sort of woke me up to, hey, maybe you should have used a pole saw for that, because I do have a good pole saw. So you've got to be really, really careful. You know, anyone can buy these things. These are professional size chainsaws. This thing is 92 cc's, this thing is 72 cc's. So, or 70, 71 something. They are seriously powerful chainsaws, and this one can handle, probably 36-inch bar, which is a big bar. This one's got a 28-inch on it at the moment. Now, let's talk about who these chainsaws are for. These chainsaws are for people who want to be able to cut a big tree down, but are not going to be doing it every day, all day, just every now and then. And I'll qualify that by saying that there are professionals who use these saws because they're cheaper. All right, especially like if you're going through a chainsaw every couple of years because you're using it flat chat out, you know, every day. Even if you buy a cheap Chinese one and it only lasts 1 year, it's still a quarter of the price. And so you do the maths there. You know, it's still going to be cheaper to run one of these for a year rather than a professional saw, you know, an OEM saw that lasts twice as long. Maybe even if it lasted 3 times as long, it would still be more economical to run these. Am I telling people go out and buy these instead of OEM saws? No. You know what? If I had the money, I'd have a Stihl and a Husqvarna, but I don't. I don't have that money. I can't. It's not that I do. Well, I do. It's not that I don't have that money. It's that I can't justify buying OEM saws when I don't need them. All right. I want to be able to cut down big trees and mill big trees, big logs, but I don't want to. You know, I don't need, you know, expensive OEM saws for that. Now, you can buy these in kit form and put them together yourself, and I've seen guys who build saws like A-Fleet Command, and they build these for professionals. Also Iron Horse, Tin Man. I don't think Tin Man builds these things. These are guys who all know each other. There's sort of a community of chainsaw builders and repairers and that. And but I know that A-Fleet Command, he has built like, you know, a dozen at a time for logging crews, guys who run logging crews, and it's like, yeah, it's just cheaper to get these things built, because a very large part of how long the saw is going to last is the build quality. By that I mean the person who actually put it together, how much attention they put in building them, putting them together, putting the parts together. It's one thing having the parts if they're of a decent quality, right? If you've got someone who's really sloppy and, you know, doesn't have the attention to detail to make sure that he's putting it together properly, it's going to be a piece of crap. But if you've got someone with those same exact quality parts, giving it attention and putting it together properly, it's going to last longer. And that's how it is. So in the past, these Chinese saws had a bit of a reputation of being sort of potluck. You know, some people were saying, man, I've had this thing for years and it just goes on and on and on. And then other people saying, oh man, I had this, it shut itself in a few hours. You know, so there was literally that sort of a range of difference about the not necessarily the quality of the parts, but the quality of the builds. Pardon me, have another drink. Now, I will say this. I do have another one of these. It was the first Chinese saw I ever bought, but it wasn't a Pharmatech. It was a Balmerag, or as I think Gab from Gabman's Workshop calls it, Bumrag. So the Chinese think that if they name it their product with a German name, that it's going to give the impression that it's of German quality. Not everything that Germans make is the best in the world, but yeah, probably most of it. So it's a Balmerag, and it's a copy of a 372 as well, but the difference is someone actually did measure the displacement. I haven't measured the displacement of any of my saws, but someone actually measured the displacement of that Balmerag. It's called an SX82. 72cc it's supposed to be. Why would you call it an SX82 if it's supposed to be 72cc's? Because that's in the specs, 72cc's. Why wouldn't you call it an SX72? Anyway, he actually measured the displacement of that Balmerag, and it was something like 58. It wasn't even, it wasn't 72 or 71. So I don't know what the displacement of my Balmerag is, but I can tell you right now, that thing really goes really, really, really well. And I had it sitting around for a year and a half, 18 months or something or other, and drew 3 pulls in it. She started up with the same old fuel in it and everything. So that's a really good saw. Although I have seen a few reports where there's been a few issues with the anti-vibe mounts and just crap like that, but nothing major. So, and I've also got an older one of these, the G660, which is a copy of the Stihl MS660, a blue one. Now, I will say this. The Balmerag came with really crappy dogs, like really crappy, like that. Okay, garbage. This one actually came with these, like exact copy of, well, not exact copy, but a very, very close copy of the OEM dogs. Now, I just did happen to have OEM dogs already, so I put the OEM dogs on. This one comes with serious dogs already. It doesn't need to be, they don't need to be replaced. They're pretty serious dogs. Now, so this one already came with a full wrap handle. I have got a full wrap handle coming for this one. I've got a full wrap handle on the other one, but I'm not going to take it off. I'll buy a full wrap handle for this. Well, I've got it on the way. Pardon me. Now, what was I going to say? So these are, I don't know, 3rd generation. This one says 3rd generation. This one doesn't say what generation it is, but I'm assuming that it's the same 3rd generation. Now, the difference between these two and the earlier copy chainsaws, especially in particular because these two are both Pharmatech, I'm talking about the Pharmatech, is the previous saws, there was no identification. It was just a saw, right? So yeah, it had the model name on it, but there's no way of tracing who made it. So that's probably a big thing, because you might have some really shonky builders working for you, because Pharmatech don't make anything. They're just a company. They're just a holding company. They're just an umbrella, and they get different people to make parts, and then they get someone else to put them together, and then they get someone else to ship them. All right. So that's my understanding what Pharmatech is. It's just a company, an office. Right. That I may be wrong, but that's what I've been told on YouTube by people in the know who actually have been to China and dealt with the Pharmatech people. A Fleet Command, I believe, did that. So the difference between these saws is they're actually got a serial number. Okay, so each of these chainsaws has a serial number. So a date of manufacture and a serial number. So this was made. When was this one made? February. That one was made in February 22, and this one was made in February 22 as well. There you go, made on the same month. So they do have serial numbers. So having serial numbers, you can trace who made them. So if yours blows up, you can ring up the dealer, whoever you bought it from, and say to them, hey, mine blew up, here's the serial number. Which I advise people to do. Actually let them know what the serial number of the machine is. That way, if there's a pattern there, hey, all these serial numbers are blowing up, and they were all put together by that guy. And then they can do something about that. Although, I doubt if most people would do that. I doubt if most people would care. They'd just buy another one. But the actual quality and everything of these things, compared to the earlier ones, is supposed to be a lot better. For instance, both of them came with NGK spark plugs, the same BRMP7, whatever. Now, the only thing that I have replaced thus far is the decomp valves. I've got a hold of two Husqvarna OEM decomp valves, the blue button ones, and installed them, because I can't remember which one it is, but one of them, I probably didn't have to on both, but one of them, the actual hole that it goes into the cylinder is actually too small, because apparently the cheap Chinese ones have a tendency of the handle to come off, the cap to come off, and the valve pin to drop into your motor, and yeah, you can imagine what would happen. One of these, the hole is too small for that to happen, and the other one has got a big hole. So, but I replaced both of them because they're really cheap, and it's something that a lot of people advise to do. They also advise to replace the spark plugs, but these came with NGK spark plugs, so yeah. Now, why did I get one of each? Because they're cheap, and I can, and I wanted to, and yeah, it was just a present for myself. Everyone who deals with these on a higher level says that they're getting better and better and better, to the point where they're not far off OEM as far as performance. As far as all the bits and pieces, like this one, I had to cut off a heap of flashing. The join where the plastic was joined together, not too crash hot. This one's different. This one was really nice and neat. And one thing that's really nice about the Stihl is, or the Stihl copy, is this aluminium protective plate that runs the length of the saw. That's a really good idea. Yeah, interesting. Which the other one, the blue one, does not. This one, the recoil cover is actually cast alloy. Well, the recoil cover on this, I think, is just plastic, which I think is the same as Husqvarna. So obviously, I haven't fired these saws up. They are brand new, and I will make a video of both of them going and compare the two, even though they are different displacement. This is 71 and a half or something, supposed to be 72, I think, or 70, and this is supposed to be 92 or 90. But I have to say this, This one looks nicer, but this is a 372 XP copy, and the 372 XPs are a legendary saw. I've been and had a look, and there are people who've still got some of these in stock, which is amazing, because I'm not really sure when they stopped making them, but they're not. These days they're selling the 572, which I'd really like to get. I think you're looking at about 2,500 Australian, but because that's got an automatic tuning carburetor, which was really handy for where I am. What else can I say? Yeah, the reason I haven't got a bar and chain, I have got a bar for this, but I haven't got a chain because I've got to make one up. I don't have a full chisel chain. I've only got a semi-chisel chain, so I've got to make up a full chisel chain. That's, yeah, I can explain what that is. If you don't know what that is, then look it up. Difference between full chisel and semi-chisel. Different applications. They'll still do the same thing, but more efficiently for different applications, like ripping and cross-cutting. So this one isn't perfect. Like, I can see a little bit of paint, but it's really, really nice. I mean, this one costs $380 Australian, delivered to my door, just the power head, and this one costs, I think, $430. So $50 extra for an extra 20 cc's, which is not much. So anyway, I've rambled on enough, but if you are thinking of buying a chainsaw, or you think you need a chainsaw, or you just want a chainsaw, consider getting a Pharmatech. So I'm wearing a Pharmatech hat. Pharmatech are not paying me anything, but there are a lot of brands out there. There's Perlebarb, here in Australia, right? Perlebarb, MTM, Balmerag, Neotech, you know, a lot of different brands, and some really, really cheap and nasty ones as well. As far as I'm concerned, I think that these guys, I won't say head and shoulders above the rest, but I think these guys are on top of the heap as far as Chinese clone saws are concerned. I think that Pharmatech are making a pretty good product right now, and they are worth investing in if you do want to buy a cheap saw. Again, it could be a bit of potluck. You might get an absolute junker, and then again you might get one that'll last you your lifetime, which is quite possible for me because I'm getting old. But anyway, so actually for this one, I do have a hot dog pipe, a dual port pipe for this one, which I might take off the Balmerag and put on this. I'll see how this goes. If this goes harder than the Balmerag, I'll put it on this one. Give it a bit more airflow, because I didn't really notice that much difference with the Balmerag. I think with the smaller CC chainsaws, yeah, it doesn't really, like porting and pipe work doesn't really have that much of an effect, and that one's only supposed to be about, I don't know, 60 cc's or something, 58, or I don't know. I've got to measure the displacement on, and I'll measure the displacement on all these saws, and I'll in the next video, chainsaw video that is, I'll let you know. But I think that Pharmatech are a little bit better than all the others. I could be wrong, because I've owned the Balmerag, and it's a good saw, it's a good saw. Mine is anyway. But I think these guys are just a little bit higher up on this. In fact, I think they're probably top of the heap as far as Chinese saws go. They sell a lot of them, So until next time, see you later.